Going through system libraries, there are certain names that I've picked up on. Oh sure, everybody knows Micronix and Tose, or at least everybody who's weirdly deep into 8-bit Japanese game developers. But there are other developers who have also built up a legacy of garbage. Developers like Advanced Communication Company. They made some of the worst games on the Famicom and the Famicom Disk System, and on the PC Engine they made the nearly unplayable Tatsunoko Fighter. That was the game where at the end of the stage, you had to correctly guess which of 4 paths would take you to the next stage. Well, the good news for me is that there's only one more Advanced Communication Company PC Engine game after this. And if I move on after that, well, they only made 8 other games, and I've talked about half of them in bonus videos. So there's not many more horrors that ACC can inflict on me. Unfortunately, Tora no Michi is down to their usual standards. Tora no Michi was originally a Capcom arcade game, and if you haven't heard of it before, well, there's definitely a reason for that. I'm not gonna say it's my least favorite Capcom arcade game, but it's definitely down there. The PC Engine was the only console port the game got, and Capcom doesn't seem to have had any hand in its development. This is one of those ports where the basic gameplay concepts of the original are carried over, but nothing else. So whole new levels, bosses, even the enemies are kind of different. If you were a fan of the arcade game, then this would be familiar, but not the same. The plot of the game is that a bunch of children have been abducted by the Dragon King, and it's up to Shaolin monk Li Wong to rescue them. There are 5 regions in the game, and each region is divided up into multiple stages with a boss. On all of the stages, your goal is to reach the exit door, and that includes the boss stages. Li Wong jumps when you hit button 1, and attacks with his weapon when you press button 2. Of course, enemies come out in a constant stream, and you'll have to knock them away with a weapon. Weapons are acquired from the orange boxes that sometimes appear, and there are 3 different ones. Lee's default weapon is the axe, which travels in a wide arc, hits areas above and below him, and attacks relatively rapidly. It is, by far, the best weapon to use. The spear attacks directly in front of Lee, and that's it. It has a much smaller area where it does damage, and doesn't have any path except right in front of him. It doesn't even do more damage. It is objectively a worse weapon than the axe, and the worst of the 3 weapons. The club has a longer reach than the axe, and travels in a wave pattern in front of Lee, but it travels and attacks rather slowly. If you had to use the club, okay, you're fine, but you really should be using the axe. The enemies and boxes can drop items for Lee to pick up, and there's actually a pretty big variety of them. The statues and the paper bags are just worth points, and the gourds affect Lee's health. Blue will increase it a bit, red will increase it to maximum, and yellow will decrease it significantly. The POW is a useful item because it extends the reach of your weapon. It doesn't change the arc or the attack speed, just gives you a bit more reach. Other items are incredibly rare, like showed up once while I was recording rare. There's a crystal that makes you invulnerable for about 15 seconds, a scroll that destroys everyone on the screen, and everyone's favorite item, a 1-up. On some stages, Lee is able to fly. These levels auto-scroll upward, and you'll have to navigate Lee around deadly obstacles. Unfortunately, you don't have the precise control of Lee that's really needed to navigate the small areas. It's possible to slip him through, but it's a lot harder than it looks, and it's that hard because the controls aren't very good. If you defeat a boss, a scroll will drop from the top of the screen that you'll need to collect, but the game will let you continue onward without getting it. If you don't pick it up, then you get a bad ending. It's honestly kind of confusing why they even let you leave the area without the scroll. Between areas, there's a bonus stage, and here you might have to mash the attack button as fast as you can, or survive a minute against extremely weak guys without getting hit. Succeeding at the bonus stage will get you a permanent power-up, an extension to your maximum health bar, or permanently change out your weapon for a ranged attack. While I was playing Tora no Michi, I did not make much progress. And there's a very good reason for that. This game is brutally unfair. Enemies with ranged attacks do extra damage to you, and they tend to spawn in while you're jumping over pits and attack instantaneously. It is possible to knock the thrown spears out of the air, but only if you line up your attack exactly. Beyond that, enemies appear continuously. Their attacks always have priority over yours, so once the swordsmen jump and attack, then you really need to avoid them, because if you try to hit them first, you'll probably get hit yourself. On some stages, monsters just appear on top of you, and that's also a lot of fun when it happens while you're jumping over a pit. Because it's a continuous spawning process for enemies, there isn't a convenient pattern of them that you could memorize, and you can't clear them out to make your progress easier. As soon as you try to move on, they'll reappear. You only get 3 lives and 2 continues with which to clear all 5 areas, and as one extra bit of cruelty, if you have the Tendo Koei 2 memory bank, then you can save your progress and have all the continues that you want. I actually do have one, but because it plugs into the same port that I use for the RGB signal, I couldn't use the memory bank. Even the bosses are pretty awful. They have huge health bars, your attacks only do 1 point of damage, and of course they do massive damage if they hit you. For this first boss, he goes into hiding every time you hit him, so the fight drags out forever. The PC Engine port of Tora no Michi is not well regarded in Japan, and just as you'd expect, pretty much everyone complained about its absurd difficulty. Well, that and a lot of jokes that the main character was actually Krillin from Dragon Ball. And in case you couldn't tell, I really did not have a lot of fun with Tora no Michi. The best thing I can say is that it's not as awful as other advanced communications games. Tora no Michi is just mediocre. It has poorly thought out revisions to the original arcade game with bad level design, and action that mainly avoids boredom by being frustrating. I think you're better off avoiding the game rather than playing it and avoiding the enemies.